One. Hello, everyone. This week on the latest episode of the.
Are you all right?
Nope, starting all over again. 3, 2, 1. On the latest bonus episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, we'll review all of the new films on the big screen and streaming services, including Morbius, The Devil You Know, Better Nate Than Ever, Moon Knight, the new Disney streaming series. Let's see, what am I leaving out? Oh, Everything All at Once and The Outlaws. We'll have all that and more on the latest bonus episode. Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to this special bonus episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. We've done these bonus episodes because we got so much show, we can't cram it all into one edition. So we review the films on the side in our bonus. So here we go, man. We got a bunch of films, man. We're going to take it from the top. Charles Kirkland, you are up with The Outlaws, the new 2021 TV series. This crime thriller comedy series created and directed by Stephen Marchand follows 7 strangers from different walks of life who are forced together to complete a community payback sentence set in Bristol. However, their luck changes when they discover a bag full of money, unaware that some dangerous people are looking for it. Charles, what did you think about this series?
I think, okay, so this series is released by Amazon. It's actually a British show. As you can tell, with Stephen Merchant, Elgin James, who are the creators of it. And wonderful part also included with, my brain. Christopher Walken, who is the only non-English person in the film. Very good performance by him. Actually, this is a pretty good show. Very intriguing. Starts off with a little comedy, and then they hit you with the drama, and then you got the action that kicks in. I think this is an excellent show. I really had a lot of fun learning about these 7 guys and how they're interplay. The fun part really is seeing what they do to get arrested, to be put on community, they call it community payback, but what we call community service, where you go and clean up the roads. Well, they're all assigned to clean up this it's old community center, and it's got trash all over the place and spray painted. They got to clean it all up. And so in the process of doing this, they come across this bag of money, and you know, when you're on probation or parole for one of them, this is a lot of money. So they're very excited and confused as to what they're going to do with this money. However, there's some serious implications for one of the 7 about that same bag of money. So they've got to negotiate what they're going to do, as far as, are they keeping it? Are they returning it? Or, because they do find out whose money it is, and whose money it is a very serious person. So I thought I had a lot of fun with this show, and it's only 6 episodes. So, and each one of them is about an hour in length. So it's bingeable. You can take care of it in a weekend. I give it a thumbs up. If I give it a grade, I'd give it a B+.
Nice. All right. So The Outlaws, and it's streaming right now, you said on Amazon.
On Amazon Prime. Yes, sir.
Got it. All right. So that's one out the way. Up next is, wow, where do we go with this one? Let's go with Better Nate Than Ever. This is an American musical family comedy film written and directed by Tim Fenderly, based on the 2013 novel of the same name. This film is described as a coming of age story involving musical theater and Broadway. The story centers on the titular Nate Foster, Lisa Kudrow, Norbert Lee Bunce, and Joshua Bassett serving in supporting roles. It is on Disney Plus. I will lead off with this one, and I'm just going to be as transparent as I can be. Charles and I watch a lot of films. And every film to me all don't have the same purpose, right? Sometimes I'm watching a film because I go in with a lot of anticipation and I just want to see what they do with the story. And then other times I just have no expectations whatsoever. And I just want to watch something and see what it is. And literally, a lot of times when that happens, Charles, you've heard me say this on the show, that I'm usually surprised that you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't really that bad. And that's literally how I feel about Better Nate Than Ever, right? Better Nate Than Ever to me was a film I went into, I know it was on Disney Plus and they sent us a screener. I wasn't really anticipating anything by this film. And I found myself to be really, really surprised with Ruby Wood, who played Nate in this film. What I loved about the film is here's a kid who has a musical background. He, tries out for the school play. And of course, they're shading him and, he doesn't get the role, but he doesn't give up and he continues to fight. And along with his good friend, I'm trying to remember what her name is.
Liddy,
but I'm saying, what is Liddy's name in real life? Because we need to shout her out. Aria Brooks, who plays Libby.
Right.
Libby, yes. I think so. Along with the two of them, he decides he wants to go and take a crack in Broadway. You got these musical numbers in it. What could come across to me as very hokey, to me played as very endearing, and maybe that's largely because I didn't really expect it to be anything more than what it was. So I found myself entertained watching it. I thought it was cute, which most Disney films are. Technically, this film could have been a Disney Channel release instead of a Disney Plus release. It's a small little nugget. Not to say that by 3 months from now, when we're heading into award season, that Better Nate Than Ever is going to get some love. But this week, or as Lorenz Tate said in Love Jones, this film right now, right here.
Crazy.
Yes. So I would give it a B, C plus, B minus. I thought it was entertaining. I put it on, and as I am wont to do, I like to do other stuff while I watch movies. I was able to just shut it down and just kind of watch this and just kind of go with it. I felt like I was in the water and the water was taking me someplace. That's my water's taking me someplace position. And I was just kind of going along for the ride. That's what Better Nate Than Ever found like. Not the best movie of the year, but it's entertaining. And I think that it will hold your attention. And it is what it is. Great performances. Lisa Kudrow is really good. But as I said, Aria Brooks, she's really, really good in this. I love her character. Charles?
I, much like you, I had no expectations for this film when I watched it. And when I watched it, I said, wait a minute, I've got to check with somebody to make sure that I'm seeing the same thing that I think I'm seeing. So I sat the family down and we watched this film together. And much like you, we were all pleasantly entertained. This was a charming little film. I understand why it's on Disney Plus. Like you said, it's not a film that you would ever pay for in the movie theater. But even though it is entertaining, it's not that level of quality. It's a Disney movie, so you got. I do like the fact that they didn't make the parents too inept like most Disney films do. This one kind of treated them with a little respect. It made the whole thing a little bit more plausible. But riding from Pittsburgh to New York on a bus for two children, that does raise a couple red flags. It's something that can only happen in the Disney world. So other than that, I enjoyed the film, and I think I would have given it a B minus or straight B for being so entertaining. It's surprisingly good.
All right, so there you go on Better Nate Than Ever. Now we're getting into the deep water, Charles. You ready? I'm next is a film by filmmaker Charles Murray. And before we even start, I will just say that Charles Murray is a really good friend of mine. So it's very hard and difficult to review movies of people that you are connected to and right? We interviewed him earlier this week, which you can go on the site and see. So let's sit down and have a conversation and be very transparent about The Devil You Know, which is a story of a lifetime of trouble. After a lifetime of troubles, a man who has a chance to turn things around with the love and support of his family. As he tries to do right, he himself finds himself spiraling back into the dark place he overcame. The film stars Omar Epps, Will Catlett, Michael Beach. You also have performances in here by Glenn Turman, Vanessa Bell Calloway, and Michael Ealy are all in this film, directed by Charles Murray. Charles, I normally would let you go first, but let me get mine out the way with this one. This film, which tells a story, and I told him this when we interviewed, that it's written almost as, instead, not just a Cain and Abel story, but it's almost written like a Cain story. So in certain parts of the film, both of these guys are Cain-like, depending on how it all kind of fleshes out. But this story of a son who belongs to a really, really tight-knit family, who comes home from jail, but the specter of what he was in his past hangs over him as another member of his family is dealing with challenges of his own without giving away too much of the plot. I found this film to be that it had the potential to be so much more. And I think that it feels a little thin to me, right? It feels like there's not enough there, and that despite the family story, how tight-knit they are, the relationship between the two brothers, it just feels like there's another level to this film that the film should have. But other than that, man, if I'm giving this thing a grade, I'm just gonna probably stop right there and say that it is a C+. Michael Ealy, of course, who plays against type, generally as the guy who's always kind of the center of attraction, plays more of a supporting role in this film. I love the family dynamics. The story, I think, is really interesting, but to use that analogy of being on a tarmac, the plane never takes off. I just felt like I was watching this movie and it circles around for like 90 minutes. So that was kind of my take on the film. Charles, you probably feel a little differently. What are you thinking about this film?
Well, I think you forgot to mention Theo Rossi, who's in this film
Really
as well.
Good. Really good.
Who's really good in this film. I really enjoyed his character, and the work he's been doing lately has been incredible. And this is the same guy that was in True Story, played the crazy fanatic that gets involved with Kevin Hart's character in that series. I remember last movie I said, Better Nate Than Never was the type of movie that you should see on the small screen, not on the big screen. Right. This movie is the same way. This movie has but it even has a smaller scale feel than what it should be. This is not a theater movie. I feel like it's like a television movie that just didn't even make it up to the par that it should be. There was so much that they could do with it, and I felt like I was just watching like a soap opera as it unfolded. There was a lack of emotion. I think that was really important in here, and it was hard for me to connect or feel empathy for any of the characters in the film. So I mean, I understood the story, but it just didn't grab me. You know what I'm saying? So I can't even. You gave it a C+. I think, is that what you said? C+.
C+.
Well, I think that's awful generous of you. I think I'd have given it a C- or a D+ at the most. Wow. So it was. I mean, the best thing about it was the production value, I think. But other than that, I didn't feel the acting other than Theo Rossi in this movie. It just didn't work for me.
All right, so The Devil You Know is actually playing in area theaters right now. You can go and check that out. Up next, man, we've already done the Outlaws, so we're down to the last two films. And let me just go, and we'll talk about Moon Knight right now. And of course, Moon Knight is the new Disney Plus, or the latest, I should say, Disney Plus series, which stars Oscar Isaacs as Mark Spector / Moon Knight, a mercenary with dissociative identity disorder. The series also stars a bunch of folks, including F. Murray Abraham, Ethan Hawke. Okay, here we go. I've seen the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight, as Charles has as well. And before I start, let me just preference by saying that as a critic who didn't read any of these comic books, right? Because I always rely on, especially people like Charles, to kind of help guide me through the comic universe, which always pisses me off. Because like I'd have known that we were going to be doing this when I was a kid, I'd have gone back and read all these Marvel, DC comics back in the day. Never did, right? So having said that, the work that Kevin Feige and his crew at Marvel have been doing since 2008 and the launch of Iron Man, all the way to now, 14 years later, that we're watching not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe on the big screen, but also, WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If, and all the things they've done. I have been Team Marvel until now. I have finally found the one Marvel series that, and let me say, Charles and I talked about this. I watched this series, like all 4 episodes, twice when they gave it to us the first time, right? And then a couple of days later, Charles, they gave it back to us again. Hey man, we didn't get the reviews we want. Take another look at Moon Knight. I watched it again. And my response the second time was the exact same response I had the first time. I was so confused by the time I got to the 4th episode. I'm like, that's not to say that Disney or Marvel can't figure it out in the last 2 episodes, and I might come back and go, you know what? I was wrong. But again, using the Lorenz Tate line, this moment here, right now, it's not working, bro. I think this to me is the one Disney Plus series, and I struggle with this because you and I talk about this a lot, Charles. I look for the phrase that I came up with, the connective tissue that lets me know, like when I watch these shows, how do these shows connect to the larger universe that we see in the films, right? So for an example, WandaVision with Wanda and Vision directly tied to the Avengers. We know that they tied to all of the things we've seen over the last 8-9 years, right? We look at a series like Hawkeye. Hawkeye was an Avenger. So despite the fact that this is a standalone Disney Plus show, we know where Hawkeye's place is, right?
Right.
We look at Loki, same thing. All these shows, What If, all these shows, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they all tie and have connective tissue. Where Marvel struggles, and if you think about the Eternals, right? The Eternals is a perfect example, right? We talked about this, that how do they connect the Eternals to this universe? Now, I know if you read the comic books, you'll tell me, oh, Tim, you tripping, you don't really understand. But when you watch the movies, the fact that you talk about watching the Avengers and you're with the Celestial, you gotta place this in the context that lay people like myself can understand. So when you watch Moon Knight, I think I talked to somebody on our team, maybe it was Shireen Nicole, and they were like, well, Moon Knight could kind of be in the same universe of people like Luke Cage or Daredevil and those folks. So he's kind of like a street dude. I'm like, okay. So that helps a little, but I don't get that from watching the first 4 episodes of this show, Charles. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Look, this is the same thing that we went through when we watched WandaVision. After you watch, they gave us the same. They gave us 3 episodes of WandaVision to watch ahead of time, and I remember when we watched those 3 episodes, you were like the same way. You were like, "Where is this going?"
By the third episode, though, it started to clear up. I started to understand where they were going by episode 3. This one, I understood where they were going the first 2.5 episodes, and then it started going left to the point where you get to episode 4, and I'm like, I'm really not understanding. I mean, I get it. And like I said, I might be jumping the gun, but I guess my question to you was just about the connective tissue and understanding that part. But let me just wrap it up and before I throw it to you for good. And basically say that I think Oscar Isaacs is engaging. I think that Ethan Hawke is always good in everything he does. For me, these are examples of them going against the structure of what they've done with some shows and grabbing characters that many people may not be familiar with. So the Eternals was a good example. This Moon Knight is another one. Shang-Chi, I thought worked a lot better than it should have worked. But all of them are going to be a winner. But the thing that makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe unique to me is that, and I've said this over and over, is that you look at each individual show as a patch on a much larger quilt. And even though the fact that each quilt might not be as strong as a standalone, when you put them together as a universe, it's still unprecedented what Marvel is doing with this series. And again, if this is just one of the rare ones on Disney Plus that doesn't work, I can live with that, because if I have to sit through 9 really good things to get one bad thing, the 9-to-1 ratio works for me. So Moon Knight right now, I'm giving it a C+. I reserve my C+ that we could bump that grade up if the last 2 episodes are fire, but that's where I am to start. And this is the lowest score I've given any startup on the Disney Plus dial. I mean, this one to me is like, ugh, wow. But Charles, you go.
I think your grade is accurate. There's even here for. I think there's a lot of things here, even for comic book fans, that are like confusing, because first of all, they start off with the personality of Stephen Grant, and in the comic book, Stephen Grant is a billionaire, so he's kind of like Bruce Wayne as Batman. So we're kind of confused as to why Stephen Grant is this lowly museum guy as this series starts. And then it just, I mean, they try to introduce the different layers of and the personalities of Moon Knight as we go along, and we get the Mark Spector, we get a glimpse of a third personality, and it becomes actually quite confusing as it goes through it. To one point, like you said, at the third episode, there's something that happens, and you're like, okay, so how does he go on from here? And then we're in this weird place. And I understand, I think I understand where they're going with the story, but I can never be sure that what they're doing is what they mean to be doing. And so I myself, I kind of feel like it's, not that great right now, but I'm going to say I'm going to give it a grade of incomplete, because I mean, the funny part is this is only a 6-episode series. We got 4 episodes, and now you and we have to wait almost a month before we can figure out where we're going from here. So we're at a state of confusion that people who just watched this first episode have not reached yet. So there are a lot of people out there who may think Moon Knight is great because after 1 episode, it was pretty good. But as you go on, it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to give it a grade of incomplete right now. I'm reserving my C- for a later date, giving them the opportunity to finish what they started.
All righty. So I talked to a colleague last night who saw the first episode and thought it was really good. And she hasn't gotten here yet, so we'll see. I reserve the right to bump my grade up, and we may revisit this in another bonus episode about a month from now. All right, so wow, we go from one comic series to the next, and up next is Morbius from Sony Pictures, based on the Marvel character. So I want to make sure we keep saying based on, because, well, never mind, I'll get to that in a second. Morbius is a superhero film which features the character of Morbius, the living vampire, based on a character from Marvel, that talks about, I'm sorry. It stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius alongside Matt Smith, Adjana, Jared Harris, Al Madrid, and Tyrese Gibson. In the film, Morbius becomes a living vampire after curing himself of a rare disease. Now, Charles, you just heard me talk lovingly about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? And Marvel's ability to really understand not necessarily just the characters that they put on screen, but ways to find the proper tone. And that's the one thing that I really want to drive home, right? As a person, again, who never read the comics, I'm relying on the filmmakers and I'm relying on this studio and this huge quilt that I just talked about earlier to give us stories that I feel are very interesting. Now, Sony, which of course has reached this unique deal with Marvel, where they loan Spider-Man and have Spider-Man as a part of the MCU, which is really, really smart, right? Sony gets to put their name on these films. Marvel gets to come in, put the money in, and wrap their successful universe around the one property that they can't get back. So they kind of worked out a deal in order to kind of work together. But Sony's, that's not good enough for Sony. Sony's like, oh, snap. DC, aka Warner Brothers, and Marvel, aka Disney, have these kind of cinematic universes. Man, we need to get one. So we can't build one unless we use characters that are inside of the Spider-Man universe. So they have a Spider-Verse over at Sony. Now, let me just be very, very honest and look directly into the camera and say that I hated Venom. I did not like anything about Venom.
No, not Venom. Morbius.
No. I'm getting ready to get to that.
Okay.
Venom. I know exactly what I'm saying. I did not like Venom because these are Sony properties that are inside of their Spider-Verse, right? I didn't like Venom so much. I didn't even bother to watch Venom Let There Be Carnage because what was the point? Like, my question was, why is there a sequel? They're like, come on, Let There Be Carnage. Why is there a sequel? So having said that, now we get to Morbius. And let me just say, and again, I'm saying this with all the love that I have and all the truthful honesty of a host of a show called Keeping It Real. I went to a screening of this movie at 1:00 in the afternoon. Now that's important to note because if it was 7 o'clock at night and I had worked all day and had eaten and I had a nod, you could kind of attribute it to like I had a long day. I saw this movie at 1:00 in the afternoon. I'm sitting there watching this story and man, I tell you, there was pockets of sleep that were in this movie. I woke up and let's just say for lack of a better term, because you know I do this and I watch movies, a lot of movies. Do you realize how spoiled we have become watching movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And to a certain extent, there are certain films that Warner Brothers makes as a part of the DCEU, the DC and its DC, what is it? DC
Extended Universe.
Extended Universe, right? This movie is just bad, right? The storytelling of it, the imagination, the casting, the screenplay, nothing works in Morbius. And it's, I read this earlier, so it's not an original Tim. This is a vampire movie that sucks. Now, sucking in a vampire movie would tell you, hey, man, he's draining blood. No, this movie's not good. This movie sucks. Do you realize how hard it is in the age of Marvel and DC to make a bad, I'm talking about a bad movie. Like, I watch bad movies over, like when we talk about Zack Snyder's movies, you know, I might not be a fan. I call him a 50-50 director. He does some stuff I like, some stuff I don't. Sucker Punch. But Sucker Punch and Morbius, Sucker Punch for 100, Bob. The Watchmen and Morbius, Watchmen for 100. This movie's not good. So if you come back to me, man, he is tripping. You don't know what you talking about. I like Morbius. All right, bro. You can have Morbius. I'm gonna go back over here and watch these MCU films. Matter of fact, I didn't necessarily like Moon Knight. Moon Knight is light years better than Morbius. I'm just gonna let you know that.
Oh.
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. I wasn't even a big fan of Moon Knight, but you heard me say I watched Moon Knight 3 times. I would not be watching Morbius again. I'm good. I'm good. So I would get Morbius. I mean, just because I'm trying to be nice. And I think Jared Leto, the issue with Jared Leto is that he plays this character in a way that is kind of creepy. And Jared Leto is a really, really good actor. But it just doesn't work for me, man. And it's like, I look at this propensity of them casting Jared Leto and what is the tremendously gifted dramatic actor who plays in Venom? What is his name?
Oh, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Both these actors are way too intelligent and way too talented to be in these roles. They really are. Unless you can get better writing and get better structure, these things don't work. So I would give Morbius a big D. I wouldn't give it an F, but I would give it a D. Morbius it's not a good movie, man. Just don't even waste your time. This spider universe that they're building at Sony, until they bring in a better director, until they bring in some better screenwriters, I ain't got nothing for you, man. I'm just one dude, but you ain't to listen to me. Put your money down and go see Morbius, and then let's have a conversation later on. So that's my take on Morbius. Charles, thank God you missed that one.
Look, this was supposed to be Jared Leto's revenge movie. Remember, he was a DC guy, and they let him go and didn't want to work out the Joker with him anymore. So this was supposed to be him getting back at DC by jumping over to this Sony universe, Sony Spider-Man universe. And
I got one, Charles. Look, the Joker's on you. I'm sorry. I had to take that shot, man. So let's talk about what I think is the best movie this weekend right now. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. A sci-fi action comedy written and directed by Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. It stars Michelle Yeoh. Is it Q Hoi Khan? Oh, God, I'm just messing these names up. Jenny Slate's in it. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. This film tells the story of an aging Chinese immigrant who is swept up in an insane adventure where she alone can save the world by exploring other universes connected with the lives she could have led. All right. There was a movie several years ago called Scott Pilgrim Saves the World. Remember that?
Versus the World.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I'm sorry. I was adding my own stuff because he was trying to save, but Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And that film was this audacious, kind of satirical film that had all these wonderful otherworldly elements. And this film reminds me a lot of that film, right? And in this one, it starts off with this Chinese family who are on the verge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, on the verge of losing their is it their business, the laundromat that they have?
The laundromat business, yeah.
Right. So they're on the verge of losing their laundromat, and they go in to see, I don't know,
she's an IRS agent.
Thank you. IRS agent played by Jamie Lee Curtis that's packed on all of this makeup and made to look like old and homely. And then you come to find out, and I can't even really explain this movie because it's so bizarre, but so much fun, that she gets sucked into this adventure in this alternate world or alternate reality where Jamie Lee Curtis is really like the bad guy trying to take her down, and her family. There's martial arts in it. There's humor. There's sexual toys that are used in different ways. This movie, as I like to say on the streets, is buck wild. but buck wild in a fun way. This to me may go down, Charles, on April the 1st as the most original film that we're going to see in all theater this year. Can you think of any movie that can do what this movie does and do it effectively? Not to a point where it goes over the top or it's just too much. No, it works brilliantly in this film. I loved everything about this movie. Michelle, is her last name pronounced Yao? Yo. Michelle Yeoh was great in this movie, man. I mean, now, this is the same Michelle Yeoh who's been great in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She's been great in almost every movie, but this is a very different role for her, but she pulls it off. And as we say all the time on this show, when we talk about movies, execution is everything, right? You can take the best screenplay, you can take the best group of actors, you can have it lit well, have a soundtrack and score that works. If it ain't executed, it's not working. If it ain't rough, it ain't me. This movie is rough. This movie is fun. I can't even literally describe. Like, I got out the theater, I was like, I don't know what I just watched, but it was a whole lot of fun, and I would do it again. It was like being in a ride, sitting in a movie theater like I am right now, and you're just going for an adventure on screen, and you're like, wow, I'm laughing uproariously because they have some gags in here that are like, wow. Before Charles gets, I'm giving this movie a B+. I would give it an A because I liked it that much, but I'm gonna give it a B+. This is really, really a creatively made tale by Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. This is really well done. And they also wrote it together. So kudos to you guys. Give you a salute. Charles Kirkland, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, who are known as the Daniels, have done many videos in the past, and they've also had a film called Swiss Army Man, which was before this. And so you kind of get to see how they have a really weird sense of cinematic storytelling, and they put the pedal to the metal in this one as you're going on this ride. This thing is ridiculous. I just usually when I say the word ridiculous, it's a bad thing, but this is an awesome thing. I like the comparison that you made to Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, only in the fact that when I got out of the film, I was immediately urged to call someone and say, you got to go see this movie. This thing is a roller coaster ride, and most of the time it's going down. It just keeps going, and faster and faster and faster and faster. After you get out that first scene in the IRS office, it just takes off, and it's amazing what they do in this film as far as like you said, all the sexual references, all the kung fu, all the futurisms that they do as far as, I mean, some of the things that you think you might see in the Matrix, and it's just dynamite. It's sometimes I thought as I was watching it, her co-star Kei Kwan was Jackie Chan because of the same. He's mimicked some of the same fighting style that Jackie Chan would do, how it's dramatic and cinematic and outlandish. But I mean, throughout the whole movie, and nothing, you can take nothing for granted as you're watching it, because once you think you got grasp of something, they change it up, and you and you gotta like, oh, okay, now I see where we're going. And like I said, this movie is a roller coaster ride to the best parts of it that you could ever have. I enjoyed it as much as you, maybe even more. I was surprised because this is kind of a comic manga type of style of storytelling. I was surprised that you enjoyed this film, Tim. When it was over, you said you enjoyed it. You saw how I reacted. I'm like, what? You? Because this was right in this nerd wheelhouse that I live in, the comic, manga, action, kung fu action, wrestling, all that stuff is smashed into this film, and it is phenomenal. I enjoyed it very much. I gave it an A- only because
Wow.
I don't want I gotta leave room for other things, but I don't know what could surpass this in the grandiose scale of storytelling. I can't wait to see what the Daniels do next.
All righty. The reason why I'm looking like this is because while you were talking, press release just came down, and I got a call from Wilson Morales, so I knew this was big.
It's time.
The breaking news is just
It's
happened.
time.
Will Smith has resigned from the Academy over the Oscar backlash. And basically, in his statement, he wrote, "The list of those I've heard is long and includes Chris, his family, and many of my dear friends and loved ones, all those in attendance and the global audience at home. I betrayed the trust of the Academy. I deprived other nominees and winners of their opportunity to celebrate and be celebrated for their extraordinary work. I am heartbroken." And he's further gone on to say that he will accept any additional consequences that the Academy's Board of Governors deems inappropriate. I'm just going to say, not to rehash this situation again, but this is, I can't be happy or celebrate this. This is really a very sad moment if you think about the totality of a 30-plus year career and the track that Will Smith was on, and to find himself in a place of hopefully that he is not deemed irrelevant or will throw him away, because this fits the pattern, Charles, that we talk about, how we love to build up our heroes, and then once they make a mistake, we take our heroes down. Not excusing any way what he did. I think it was wrong, but I just need the punishment to fit the crime. And I think right now, the Academy is looking for their pound of flesh, because they're taking so much heat that they've got to take an extreme stance. And that's pretty unfortunate to me. I don't know what that means, because I don't think, have we ever heard of a situation where somebody resigns from the Academy? Like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean that his films, like his performances moving forward, are not judged by the Academy? He's not a member of the branch. I don't know what resigning from the Academy means. So we may have to explore that in a future show. But yeah, that's the word, that Will Smith has resigned from the Academy over the incident that happened last week.
I'm inclined to believe that it means less than what we think it means, in that him resigning does not make him ineligible for nomination or anything like that. It just makes him ineligible to participate in the process. So he can't vote, he can't nominate, he can't recommend and interact with the association in the way that he has in the past. So I think that's at the beginning of what I understand this to mean. But it could also mean more. It's not going to wipe out his filmography. It's not going to make him ineligible for nomination, because, as you know, you and I both know, running an awards association, you don't have to be a member of the association to be nominated and win an award. So I think it's a preemptive strike on his part to show contrition for what he's done, and hopefully that the Academy doesn't come down hard on it.
Wow. All right. Well, damn, hate to end on that note, but wow.
We just can't get away from the slap, man. This is our second show. And
I mean, again, like I said, man, to me, it's not about that. I think it's about that folks have lives and families and careers and things of that nature. And as an African American, I've seen too many times in our direct lifetime of how there were people that we've celebrated who now are not, their contributions are minimized because of something that they've done. And wow, I just hate to see it, man. I mean, I it's not about, you're celebrating like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what you get. This is not a that's what you get moment. This is like, these are real people dealing with real circumstances that are embroiled in a much larger situation now because of the actual Academy, because of the actual embarrassment, because of the actual heat that people are feeling with all the dialogue that's going on, whether it's social media, the news. Everybody has an opinion on this one. And it's one of those situations, man, that, you know, there are two sides there are two sides of the story, right? That at least we can see on the surface. There's the person who did the act and the person who the act was done to. And then everybody else has an opinion around that. But the larger part of this entire circus is that it took place on the largest night, awards night in Hollywood. You know, so yeah, it's an interesting situation that will bear watching. But we're gonna end this bonus episode. So my apologies, because we had only planned on doing films on the bonus episode, not more of Slapgate. So we'd only planned on doing films, but again, this breaking news came while we were on the air. So on behalf of my colleague, Charles Kirkland, please see something good at the movies. If I were you, everything, everywhere, all at once, get there quick. You'll have a lot of fun with that one. But until next week, you guys enjoy, you take care, and enjoy your weekend. Charles, you have a wonderful weekend, bro.
Peace.